All right, I just want to do a quick video on something I found kind of interesting when I got thinking about it. We've all been taught that light emitting diode bulbs and such are super important to the environment. They're going to save the planet, etc., etc. Old incandescent stuff is terrible, and if you ever think to use it again, you're directly contributing to killing a whale or a unicorn or something similar. But I recently had the opportunity to take a couple of different bulbs apart, and something kind of jumped out at me. So let's see here. This is an old, excuse my really shitty setup here, but this is an old incandescent style bulb. I think it's like 1155 or something. This came out of a snowblower, but in essence, it's all the same technology as what you get in like a normal 60 or 40 watt household bulb. You have kind of like your exterior case. Now, in the case of a home bulb, this would have a thread on the outside, but it actually acts as one of your contact points. This would be your other contact point, your other terminal. I believe these are positive and these are neutral. But I mean, it doesn't really make a difference. You put it in the wrong way and it won't work. In this case, it doesn't matter. You're going to put it in, it's going to work. This would be the top section. All right, so we've got essentially like a glass, I won't say vacuum, but it's like a glass cylinder filled with an inert gas, sealed from the environment. Within it is a filament. These are often tungsten. And what happens is the electricity goes through one side, comes through this element. Because of the resistance in the element heats up, and light is created as well as heat, and then electricity flows out the other side. And this continues on. You'll see it gets bright, bright, bright. Turn off, it gets dark, right? Very simple. So we got glass, steel. You can see one of the terminal contacts in here, all right? And then in this case, this might be, I don't think this is actually brass or copper. I think this is just a coated steel as well. Some tin, and whatever glue and shit they use in there. Okay, so you're looking at steel, a little bit of tungsten, some glass, and some inert gas, and a little bit of tin. This here was a light bulb I took apart recently. It was from a string of like kind of construction style lights on a cord, big heavy duty cord, multiple outlets for lights. You'd hang it all up. All right, sorry about that. We got interrupted. Let's carry on. So this was, like I said, this is an older model LED, far better built than the newer ones. But if you see, we can take it apart here. Okay, I'm missing it. There's actually should be a little control board here, a little piece of PCB that the LEDs are all affixed to. The two contacts come up through this piece of metal and affix to the board, and then the lights light up. This piece of metal, this body housing, as you can see, is actually a pretty substantial piece of cast aluminum. And you can see it's got fins here for heat dissipation. It's been all cast. Even looks like it's been somewhat machined in there, but I think that must all be one casting. All right. And there, a little piece of plastic. Okay, it holds everything in. This is the like the terminal piece I was talking about earlier, where you'd have, you know, one of your terminals here and one here, either positive, negative, vice versa. Steel. Okay. Within this plastic housing, you can see the actual guts for this thing. Which way does it come out? Okay, yeah, okay. You see all the control stuff that comes in. Okay. So in this case, these are your terminals that would go to this piece, right? One would hook on the inside here and one would hook in at the bottom. A resistor, I believe that's a capacitor, another capacitor, and a whole little transformer. So that would step your 120 down to whatever the LEDs need. Some control logic stuff going on here, and then your wires that go to your little control board with, or your little PCB with the LEDs on it. Okay. So my question is, when you're manufacturing something like this, okay, for every light bulb, okay, keeping in mind that aluminum takes 10,000 times the amount of electricity to smelt it from pure bauxite, from ore, than say steel. The fact that aluminum ore manufacturing pretty much is always done right beside like a hydroelectric dam or nuclear power plant because it is so incredibly energy intensive. They also use hydrofluoric or just fluoric acid as part of the treatment process. And essentially the waste from that is fluoride, and they put that in our drinking water and our toothpaste. Go figure. But in any case, how much energy did this piece alone cost to manufacture? This is a significant chunk, okay? And obviously they've gone through the effort. This is all cast in all these little heat fins and stuff like that, okay? And then of course you look at this stuff, and I mean, it doesn't seem like a whole lot, but you've got 2 copper windings in here. These little capacitors are generally filled with a electrolytic solution, which is kind of like wrapped in a membrane. And then these little cases themselves are made of aluminum. And of course, your different chips of silicone. And these are resistors as well. I don't see any monolithic capacitors on there, so I don't see any tantalum or palladium. Yeah. It doesn't seem like a lot, but when you're making about 1 billion of these, like how bad is that? How much energy does that take? And of course, plastic. Yeah. So let's move on to the next one. I'll do that in another thing. I'll have to edit this out 1 second. Okay, so as promised. Stupid cat. Okay, so here's the board. This is very similar to the one that was in the other bulb that I didn't show you, but PCB on the other one, this one's kind of smart. They've minimized production costs because they have pins, and the pins just plug into this little socket, okay? The other one had to be soldered, so I don't know what the process would be exactly, but something had to go in and solder 2 lines to this piece. But in this case, it's just pins. A little energy efficient in that respect, or at least money and time efficient. And your all little LEDs are all on here. There's not really much going on. This is a piece of aluminum, and yeah, doesn't say anything about the specs of the LED. Any case, so this, like I said, is a newer one. This one's from Home Depot. I bought a whole whack of these not too long ago because the Sylvanias I had started to die out. What was interesting is the Sylvanias were all dying out at the same time. You could pretty much tell which ones came in the same box because they'd all kind of flickered, and then eventually they just crap out completely. And frankly, I don't remember them having lasted any longer than any incandescent bulb I've ever had. I think older ones, likely ones like these that are overbuilt, they'd probably last quite a while. These little ones, they're getting pretty shitty, and they got everyone convinced, oh yeah, it's good for the environment, it'll last forever. And then of course, because now you can't buy the other ones, these ones are starting to shit the bed far quicker than they would have before. This one's rated for 90 milliamps, 9 watts. So someone can do the math and figure out what the voltage actually going to the LEDs is. But in any case, this is another little casing. It looks to be aluminum. Let's see if I can get a magnet in there. A little neodymium magnet from a hard drive. Yeah, that must be aluminum. It's not reacting. Okay. So another piece that they would have had to manufacture. Now this one wouldn't have been cast, I don't think. Okay, it's 2 pieces first of all. So this piece is probably extruded, and down here would be pressed. So less energy and time intensive. Again, terminal. You can see this one's still wired in there. black wire goes to, oh, okay, goes to the spiral part. Is that black? Oh, I can't tell. Well, from what I can see, black wire goes to the spirally bit, and then the terminal at the bottom must be the positive. Okay, so we have another little control board. Again, some surface mount stuff. I'm not seeing any fancy equipment. Another transformer, capacitor, 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 capacitor. A little connector thing. You can actually see on this one, I don't know if it's coming through very well, you can see a little bit of shit stain where it looks like stuff was starting to heat up. And in here, I'm guessing, there might be a fuse in here. Hard to tell. But you can really see all this discoloration here and here. That's from heat. So this one does not have all the heat dissipation like we saw on that other one, which means it's going to die way quicker. So it costs less to make, and it's going to shit the bed way sooner because nothing kills electronics like heat. And these things, despite the fact being low energy, they're sitting up in a socket. They get warm. If you ever go and you hold on to, where'd it go? To this part, when they're running, they're warm. I mean, they're not hot like a regular incandescent bulb you can't even touch, but they do warm up. And over enough time, they will also shit the bed just like anything else. Oh yeah, look in there. More skid marks all over the place. So, for anyone that has too much time on their hands and wants to do some math and some research, it would be awesome, put in frame there, if someone could tell me how much energy it costs to make a bulb like this versus today's shitty standard with the aluminum and control boards and all that. And then for bonus points, someone can figure out even just how much this particular piece of cast would have taken in terms of electricity. I'd be impressed. But I mean, the long and short of it is they're just using environmentalism to sell us shit, and everything they tell us is lies, and none of this stuff performs anywhere near as well as they say it does, especially in non-laboratory settings. At the end of the day, as most people do, you can have a bulb like this that goes in the garbage, steel, glass, a little bit of tungsten, or you can have one of these fucking abortions go into the garbage. Look at this. What I'll do is I'm going to go in, I'm going to strip all these transformers out, and I'll scrap those separately. And this stuff's going to go into my circuit board piles. And the scrapyard takes them as smelter boards. And the reason I do that is not because you make any money off that whatsoever. It's like 3 cents a pound, and of course none of this weighs anything. But because hopefully they have the proper facilities for trying to at least recycle some of this shit out of there. So that gets reused. This is aluminum. I'm going to put this in as irony aluminum because it's got all this stupid shit on it. But yeah, otherwise it's going to go in the garbage. And something like this especially, that's never going to fucking degrade, ever. That is going, you might be able to crush it down a little bit by chance when you put enough stuff on it and maybe run like a dozer or something over it, like you see on the top of the garbage piles. This is aluminum. Aluminum oxide is one of the hardest things in the world. This will never degrade. Never, ever, ever. And people throw this shit out all the time. But then they give you a dirty look when you're driving around with your truck. Or eating beef. Or not wearing any pants and waving at the neighbors. Anyway, I digress. All right. Thanks for listening. Bye-bye.